good, YouTube? It's your boy Carter Jones, and we back with another vid. Man, these are the top dumbest criminals who think they can outsmart the police. Let's see what we got here.
Today, we're going to look at the felons that were foolish enough to hire a hitman on Craigslist, steal a penguin from their own mugshot on Facebook, as we check out the dumbest criminals that got away with it until they didn't. Fake friends. We all know a social media addict who can't go a day without posting about their lives. But in some situations, being terminally online can land you in serious trouble. Back in 2009, a con man called Maxi Sopo went on the run after stealing 200.
We ain't gonna act like, my bad, I did pause already. But we ain't gonna act like we ain't in the self-snitching days. Everybody gotta go to the social media to post everything, every piece of their life, everything. Especially why you doing that when you doing something illegal. I never seen another job so easy. The police getting a free paycheck. The investigators ain't even investigating at this point. They just scroll, cause they on social media right with them. Scroll on social media.
$1,000 by committing bank fraud in Seattle, Washington. He did this by convincing his friends to lie about their income so they could acquire loans for expensive cars. But instead of actually spending the cash on the luxury vehicles, they fraudulently used it to fund a trip to Las Vegas instead. They said what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But Sopo didn't stay in Sin City for long, as when he discovered the authorities were investigating his crimes, he decided to go and hide out in Cancun, Mexico. However, instead of laying low, Sopo started partying in nightclubs and boasting about his lifestyle on Facebook, as he uploaded pictures and posts about his escapades. The post revealed he was in Mexico, but Sopo's location was set to private, so the police couldn't figure out exactly where he was. That is, until the criminal made the dire mistake of sending a friend request to a man he met at a party. Turned out to be a former U.S. Justice Department official. The police spotted the former official on
Yeah, first of all, you never know who you talking to. The point of on a run is to stay low, bro. Don't attract any attention. And you can't really work how you want to work, so you don't need to even be going down to the club just throwing bread away. You want to have a drink, you want to buy some in-the-house liquor. Have a drink in the house. If you can find your little gig and blend in with the locals, do that and go home every day, man. That's how you gonna have to live your life. You chose that, doing what you did. This idiot, and then you ain't even ask the nigga what he do for a living, what he used to do for a living. You just chit chat and get niggas info in.
Close friends list and recognized him, so they contacted him to explain the situation. He then confirmed that while he had no idea Sopo was a fugitive, he had met him in Cancun. This led the cops to Sopo's location, and the Buzz finally found and arrested their man in 2010, before convicting him of 4 counts of fraud. Ultimately, Sopo received a 33-month sentence plus a hefty $150,000 fine for his crimes. And it's crazy that he was caught over a couple of Facebook posts and a seriously misjudged friend request.
Viva Mexico.
How mighty have fallen from living La Vida Loco to lying in a lockup.
Goofball Jamal.
Hijacking history. Working as an academic is prestigious, intellectual, and boring. So in 1997, a Civil War expert and New York State Archives employee called Daniel D. Laurello decided to spice up his life by turning to crime. Laurello started stealing historical artifacts at work and selling them on eBay, and his loot included a letter from 1823 that was written by the former Vice President John C. Calhoun to a general from New York. Calhoun served under the presidents John Adams and Andrew Jackson, so the artifact is a pretty special piece of American history. And in 2008, Laurello sold it for just $1,700. But ultimately, Laurello was the one who paid the price. See, a former history teacher called Joseph Romito found the eBay listing and instantly recognized the letter. He knew that it was supposed to be held by the New York State Library, so it was obvious that the person selling it on eBay, aka Lorillo, had stolen it. In hindsight, attempting to sell stolen artifacts to history nerds who know everything about them is pretty stupid, and Romito's discovery led to a full-blown police investigation. This uncovered that between 1997 and 2008, Lorillo had swiped over 1,600 rare books and documents right under everyone's noses. Unsurprisingly, he was promptly arrested, sentenced to up to 6 years in jail, and slapped with a $125,000 fine. But the authorities were only able to recover 90% of the materials that he'd stolen and sold. So it looks like Lorillo will go down in the history books too, as his actions have caused over 100 of New York's precious artifacts to go missing for.
Bro, it's leaving a paper trail when you use all these electronics, bro. Like, I don't know what y'all just don't get about that shit. You trying to be secret and sneaky by leaving one of the biggest trails you can leave.
Ever. Self-defense. When I was a kid, I told my auntie Ethel that her cooking was too salty, and since then I've learned that once you say something, you can never take it back. But while I got a dressing down from my aunt, in 1985 a criminal called Dennis Newton had to face the full force of the law when he misspoke while on trial for armed robbery. Newton was suspected of robbing a convenience store in Oklahoma, and when he went to court, he thought it would be a great idea to do away with lawyers and represent himself. At first, he was arguing his defense pretty well, but when the manager of the store testified that Newton was the thief, the criminal broke out in a rage and shouted, "I should have blown your head off." A shocked silence settled over the courtroom, and as Newton realized he'd just admitted to his crime, he lamely added, "If I'd been the one that was there." Talk about turning yourself in. Following his outburst, all bets were off, and it took less than half an hour for the jury to sentence him guilty and recommend a 30-year sentence.
Damn.
To be honest, I'm surprised it took that long.
Bro, don't play with your freedom like that. Even if you feel like you can't afford a private attorney, bro, don't do the stupidest thing you can do and try to represent yourself, bro. You don't know the law. You only know what they tell them. You don't know about the brand new house. For real though, man, stop it, bro. Stop thinking y'all know the law, man. Damn.
Hitman wanted. Personally, I've only ever used Craigslist to sell some unwanted furniture and hire a handyman. But in 2008, Anne Marie Linscott from Grand Rapids, Michigan, posted a seemingly innocent advertisement on the site offering freelance work that concealed a criminal request. When 3 people responded to Linscott and asked her what the job was, she explained that she'd pay them $5,000 to, quote, eradicate the wife of a man she'd fallen in love with.
Oh, never.
Linscott had an affair with a guy called John back in 2005 and fell for him. But he left her to go back to his wife. So Anne Marie turned to Craigslist
Salty as hell.
and permanently break up their marriage.
Yeah, but she was salty as hell, you hear me? She said Buddy ain't never even talked to her about doing none of that shit. Buddy went back to his wifey. She was salty, McSalty. I'm telling you, she tried to off his wife. Never. Man, he just was gonna go back to you after you got his wife murdered. And maybe he wouldn't have knew you had something to do with it. But even if she passed away, you think he was just gonna go back to you, huh?
Unsurprisingly, the 3 respondents immediately reported Linscott to the cops, and her post was all the evidence the authorities needed to charge her with 12.5 years in
You'll be
prison
surprised how
for
many people be
intent
doing that
to
shit,
lie.
yo.
Man, publicly hiring a hitman online is unbelievably stupid, and I still don't know what responses Anne Marie was expecting to her request. Did she think an actual hitman would reply? Like, "Hey, I'm a professional sniper. DM me the address, and I'll eradicate whoever you want. XOXO." One wild night. Every now and then it's fun to let loose and have a
They
wild
keep using
night
the
out,
same
but
picture.
in 2012, Rice Jones and Carrie Mules partied a little too hard and had a wild life night. When They got drunk and stole a penguin from the SeaWorld in Queensland,
Oh
Australia.
no.
The Welsh tourists were on vacation when they drunkenly broke into the park.
That's some movies.
The dolphin set up a fire extinguisher in a shark enclosure and finally kidnapped Dirk the penguin and took him back to their apartment. Now, I've had some bad hangovers, but as the Brits woke up and found Dirk waddling around, they must have been filled with regret. They initially tried caring for the penguin by giving him bread and putting him in the shower, but eventually they gave up and abandoned Dirk under the nearby Southport.
Never.
They would have gotten away with it, but they posted videos of Dirk onto Facebook, which were reported to the police, so they were consequently arrested and fined over $650 each. The judge...
Yo, do y'all not, you know, not if the shoe don't fit, don't wear it, right? So I ain't even gotta explain myself. Do y'all not think of some of the stuff y'all do before y'all do it? Like, you just did what you did. No one's looking for this precious animal that they didn't took their time to name Dirk. And then you just gonna post pictures of him that was in your house. And then gonna abandon him under the bridge. The same way y'all snuck out, the same way y'all was drunk and took him while you ain't sneak back in there and put him back in that case. This is crazy. They're gonna abandon a penguin underneath a bridge. Wow. That was some movie junk. That was some hangover movie type junk. But hey, boy, it's crazy.
Being that the tourists didn't act with malice, so they actually weren't convicted of a crime, although I don't suppose they'll be welcome back in SeaWorld anytime soon.
Hell
And
no.
what became of Dirk? Well, he was eventually found under the pier before being returned to his enclosure and reunited with his girlfriend, Peaches.
Peaches
Now,
and
I love
Dirk.
a happy ending.
Peaches and Dirky, yo.
Criminal confession. Honesty isn't always the best policy, and sometimes telling the truth can ruin your life. Just ask James Washington, a 61-year-old inmate at Turney Center Prison in Nashville, who had a terrible heart attack back in 2009 while serving a 15-year sentence for attempted homicide. For most people, going to prison and having a heart attack sounds like a worst-case scenario. But as Washington lay on his deathbed, he made his situation 1,000 times worse by revealing his deepest, darkest secret to a prison guard. The 47-year-old
He didn't die.
really thought he was going to die, so he confessed that he was the man who committed a brutal homicide that had gone unsolved since 1995. The investigation had been abandoned due to a lack of DNA evidence, so Washington decided to finally clear his guilty conscience. But to his surprise, he made a full recovery from the heart attack. And when his health started to improve, the authorities were able to charge him with the crime. Washington tripped.
Bro, you got away since 1995. Bro, my bro. Shout out to Tota. Yo, you not real. You're not a real guy, man. You're not real, man. I can't believe you did that, bro. What's up with you? I guess he like, man, I'm about to. This is the last one. I guess he like, man, I got to. Word up, boy. Started praying.
He'd take his confession back after he survived, but the damage was done, and his 15-year sentence was upgraded to a life sentence of at least 51 years for the 1995 case. So when Washington was released from hospital, he returned to prison with no release date in sight, and he's still locked up today. All due to his honesty and the wonders of modern medicine. Paying the price. Grant Price was just a boring guy with a boring job until the 58-year-old Englishman decided to break bad and steal $13 million from a bank. See, this real-life Walter White worked at a British bank called Halifax as a financial consultant, which is a fancy schmancy way of saying he provided financial advice to customers. But instead of giving genuine advice, he preyed on unsuspecting clients by telling them to invest money with him personally, while promising that he could use his financial know-how to double their investments. Then he would spend their money on luxury vacations, new cars, and a serious gambling problem that primarily involved betting on horse races. When his investors started demanding their returns, he'd use the money from his newer investors to pay them back like one big pyramid scheme. He took around $4.2 million from clients, and when this cash eventually ran dry, he started siphoning funds directly from Halifax, stealing $9 million more from the bank while he worked. Incredibly, he managed to run this operation from 2001 to 2004 without being caught. But one day, an auditor inspecting the bank came across a piece of paper tucked into a safe, and they found it was a handwritten IOU note from Price that openly stated he'd borrowed $9 million from Halifax. See, Price was so addicted to gambling that he truly believed he was going to win big and pay the bank back.
They always do.
So he left the note in the vault to explain that he hadn't stolen the money, and he was merely borrowing it until he won. He hoped the bank would understand and let him off easy, but unfortunately, Halifax and the police didn't accept this explanation. So the piece of paper just acted as a confession, as Price was promptly arrested and jailed for 12 years in 2005. Unfortunately, some of Price's clients never got their money back, and his scheme completely bankrupted them. But the criminal wasn't overly apologetic. He told the police that he'd been arrested too soon, and he could have been able to pay it all back if he was given another week to bet on horses, as he definitely would have won. Yeah, sure thing, buddy. Picture perfect. Social media is a great way to connect with other people, and it's also a great way of connecting the cops to stupid criminals. Back in 2016, Donald Pugh was wanted in Ohio and Georgia for driving under the influence, vandalism, and arson. So it's fair to say he was in big trouble. But he didn't bother showing up for his trial in Ohio, which forced the police to release a mugshot of Pugh online and ask the public for help locating him. Pugh saw the post, and he didn't think the photo was very flattering. So he decided to send a posed selfie to the cops and ask if they could use it instead. I'm sure Pugh thought his response was hilarious, but it blew up online and drew lots of attention to his case, so the cops soon started receiving lots of tips from people who'd spotted him down in Florida. This allowed them to track Pugh down and arrest him, all due to his self-incriminating selfie. But Pugh isn't a...
One thing I'm going to tell you, don't go to Florida with all them damn shenanigans. I'm going to say whoever don't know, whoever would think they might ever have, go down there for vacation or whatever, business. You go down there, don't go down there with them shenanigans. They police ain't playing with you. I'm telling you that. No. They not playing with you. I'm telling you. And this fool right here, man. And back to the other dude. He said he borrowed, bro, from 2001 to 2004. Not just the first money he took. He got $9 million from his bank. Bro, y'all getting all this money. Why don't you cut your shorts? Cut your losses short. Y'all don't condone nothing. However, he done did it already. Why don't you take the first few M's you got and actually make the money back? So if you do get caught in this time where you're going to jail, no matter if you got to fine and pay back or not, but at least you'll be able to pay the money back they want you to pay, and you can still not have to work again for the rest of your life. You can invest in yourself. But instead, you want to go play poker, huh? You want to get dealt a 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 in a joker, huh? You want to fold them and roll it, huh? I don't get it, bro. And y'all just stuck on this. The technology is sending y'all to jail. Y'all just telling on yourself, bro.
Well, in 2016, a Florida man called Mac Yearwood made a similar blunder after committing battery in the city of Stuart. When the cops arrived, Yearwood fled the scene, which prompted a manhunt. And as the police started investigating him online, they found that he'd updated his Facebook profile picture to an old wanted poster that revealed he had 2 other warrants for battery in Citrus County, Florida, around 210 miles away. So the police obtained Yearwood's address and tracked him down before arresting him for the crimes he committed in Stewart and Citrus County. Man, next time you want to update your profile picture, just go for a classic selfie.
This fool ain't put his wanted post.
The worst kinds of criminals are the ones who feel absolutely no remorse.
Yo, clout is a serious drug, man. Clout is something seriously bad to get addicted to, bro. If you already on a run, you put your wanted poster as your profile pic. Sick.
For that crime.
Sickening that
This
joke.
description definitely fits the Californian gangster Anthony Garcia. In 2004, Garcia committed a homicide against a rival gang member outside a liquor store in Pico Rivera. The cops had no leads and he avoided arrest for 4 years until he was pulled over in 2008 for driving with a suspended license. The police suspected that he was part of a gang called Rivera 13, so before letting him go, they took some photos of his tattoos, which is a standard procedure used to document These pictures happened to reach Detective Sergeant Kevin Lloyd, who'd been in the force for years, and when he started looking through them, he realized that Garcia had the scene of the 2004 liquor store homicide tattooed on his chest. It clearly displayed the liquor store's facade and the surrounding area, as well as the shooting itself. Garcia's nickname was Chopper, which is represented in the helicopter firing of the victim. Furthermore, the victim is represented as the Planters mascot, Mr. Peanut, which is a reference to the fact that Garcia's gang insultingly called members of the rival gang Peanuts. It couldn't have been more blatant, so the cops tracked Garcia down and interrogated him, which led to his arrest. After a short trial, Garcia was sentenced to 65 long years in jail and finally received punishment for a crime he'd committed 4 years before. Man, I bet he regrets ever walking into a tattoo parlor. But hey, at least his tat isn't as bad as mine.
You'll regret it if you think about the consequences before you commit your heinous act. I'm telling you, bro, I'm here to save everybody a whole heap of headaches and heart pain. And lonely days in one of them, however big the Jones is, 5x6s, 3x8s, whatever. For you in one of them Johns, man, think about all the consequences, bro. I'm here to think. You think you got a plan, you need to think about everything, which includes if you get caught, what can happen. Oh, you got money for a lawyer? No, I ain't got money for no lawyer. Damn, man, I mean, they were going to have to take a public defender. You know how they play. He ain't about to really work for me. So now I'm definitely getting some time, but they want you to definitely take some time anyway. So now, and this is one of them cases. It could be a federal case. Ooh, man, the feds step in, man. I'm looking at months and months and months and months and months. For this type of junk right here, ooh, the least amount of time for this charge right here is 36, 52, oh man, it's 52 months, man, for this charge right here. Damn, man, do I want to, I can't do that time, man. Nah, I'm good. Like I'm telling you, bro, if you think about it, you will not do the retarded stuff that y'all doing.
Dude, where's my bike? When I was a kid, I stole my friend Rosie's favorite toy, and felt so bad that I gave it back the very next day and burst into tears. But some adults don't have such a guilty conscience. And in 2013, a 57-year-old from San Francisco called Marquis Moore made it clear that he had no problem stealing other people's property. Marquis was, in fact, a serial bicycle thief who'd stolen 10 bikes and over 100 bike parts from different owners before attempting to sell them online. In 2013, he found a buyer for a stolen bike on Craigslist and arranged to meet them at Ashby Transit Station in Berkeley. But when he arrived, he discovered that he'd been tricked. See, one of Moore's victims had spotted his own stolen bicycle being sold on Craigslist, so he arranged to buy it and contacted the cops. They then arranged a sting operation at Ashby Transit Station, and as Marquis arrived for the sale, the police swept in to arrest him. Marquis faced charges of possession of stolen property, and he was held in jail with a bail fee of $105,000. Marking his end as the Bay Area bike burglar. All because he was stupid enough to sell a stolen bike online without realizing he was selling it to the very person he stole it from. James and the GPS. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Dang.
And I think it's the definition
Great.
of stupidity, and in 2008 a criminal was dumb enough to commit the same crime over and over again, whilst being watched by the cops. See, James Wombles committed several burglaries in Miami County, Ohio between December 2008 and January 2009, and as he got away with some stolen electronics and guns, he thought he'd committed the perfect crime. But the cops soon tracked him down and arrested him in his car because Wombles had burgled those houses while wearing a GPS ankle monitor. See, prior to these home invasions, he'd previously been caught and convicted for stolen property charges in Greene County, and afterwards he was fitted with an ankle monitor that tracked his movements 24/7. As a result, when Wombles went out and committed the Miami County invasions, the police could see that he'd visited all the crime scenes. They used the ankle monitor to track down his exact location to arrest him, and they found him sitting in a car filled with the stolen items, which gave them all the evidence they needed to sentence him to 10 years in jail. Snapchat snitch. In the movies, criminals tend to escape from the cops with action-packed chase sequences that involve sports cars and explosions. So it isn't any surprise that when a criminal from Maine tried to avoid arrest by going home and hiding in a kitchen cabinet, he wasn't so successful. See, in 2015, Christopher Wallace, nope, not the notorious B.I.G., had been evading the cops for several weeks after committing a burglary when he decided to sneak back home and hide out there. However, he made the dumb decision to post about his return on Snapchat, which prompted one of his friends to snitch and notify the police. The cops showed up and searched the house, but they couldn't find him. And just as they started to leave the property, Wallace posted on Snapchat again to tell his followers that the police would never find him because he was hiding inside a kitchen cabinet. The cops received another call about this second post, so they walked straight back to the kitchen, found Christopher, and arrested him before charging him with burglary and throwing him in jail. Man, talk about a high-stakes game of hide and seek. Career criminal. I'll admit I'm fairly gullible, and I've been tricked into thinking the word gullible was written on the ceiling a couple of times. But hey, at least I'm not as naive as Alberto Lopez, the criminal who walked straight into an incredibly obvious trap that was laid by the cops. Back in 2016, Lopez was suspected of stealing $5,000 from the bank he worked at in Cottonwood, Arizona, but he evaded capture by skipping town and moving to Phoenix. After a year away, Lopez got homesick, so he decided to move back to Cottonwood and apply for a job hoping the coast was clear. This seems pretty foolish, and to make matters worse, the job listing he applied to was for a dispatcher with the Cottonwood Police Department. When the police reviewed his application, they conducted a background check and immediately discovered he had a warrant for his arrest. But instead of tracking him down, they decided to have a little fun by inviting Lopez for an interview. Incredibly, Lopez walked straight into the police station in his best suit, and as he sat down to be interviewed, he was put in cuffs and arrested for felony theft. God, I've had some rough interviews, but at least none of mine have resulted in me being thrown in jail.
Never.
True crime novel. Some true stories really are stranger than fiction. And the tale of the Polish author Christian Bala is so absurd that it's taken straight from the pages of a crime novel. Literally. See, in 2000, Bala started to suspect that a businessman had formed a relationship with his ex-wife, so he kidnapped him and committed homicide in a jealous rage. But Bala had clearly done his homework because the police found no leads and they dropped their investigation after 6 months. The case went unsolved for years, and it looked like Bala had gotten away with the crime. But instead of lying low, he decided to become a self-published author and write a crime fiction novel called Amok that was based on the crimes he committed. The book actually became a bestseller, and when a member of the Polish police force read it, they noticed the storyline closely matched the details of the real crime, and the fictional criminal was called Chris. As they investigated further, they found that the story also included details of the homicide that were never released to the public, which essentially proved that Christian had committed the crime. So Bala's own book reopened the cold case, and it was the main piece of evidence used by the authorities as they arrested Christian and sentenced him to...
So he decided to write a book and use all of the... I don't understand. Like, I really don't understand. I don't understand. Like, they just... He decided to do stuff. And then you gonna write about it? Yeah, I don't get it, man.
In 2007. I get coming up with ideas is hard, Christian, but next time you get writer's block, I don't suggest writing down your darkest confession and publishing it for the world to see. Shot in Chicago. With The Godfather, The Sopranos, and Goodfellas, some of the most famous TV shows and movies of all time belong to the gangster genre. But the life of the real gangster John Dillinger is much wilder.
That's my boy right there.
Dillinger and his gang were active in the Midwest during the Great Depression, which lasted from 1929 to 1939. During these years, they were responsible for multiple homicides, robberies, and 3 jailbreaks. And he became so famous that he was dubbed public enemy #1. But surprisingly, the terrifying criminal was eventually caught in a pretty embarrassing way. See, in 1934, Dillinger was successfully hiding out from the cops in Chicago, but on July 22nd, he foolishly broke his cover to go watch a movie called Manhattan Melodrama, because he was a fierce fanboy of its starring actress Myrna Loy. Man, and here I thought Taylor Swift fans were devoted. Appropriately, the movie was about a lawyer who has to send his criminal best friend to the electric chair, and Dillinger was about to face a similar fate. See, one of his female companions had tipped the cops off, and after watching the movie and coming out of the Biograph Theater, the gangster found the boys in blue waiting for him outside. He began to run, but the feds took him down with gunfire and permanently ended his crime spree. Lots of people believe that Dillinger's fate actually marked the decline of the whole gangster era, as the police went on to catch over 25 other prominent gangsters who had aided and abetted Dillinger. So Dillinger's decision to go catch a movie was a pretty terrible idea, and an entire period of American history arguably ended due to his infatuation with Myrna Loy. What an ego boost.
I ain't gonna lie, back then, and at that time when John Dillinger was around, man, you heard him say jailbreaks, bank robberies. Like, back then, they said the Wild Wild West. Boy, for them that had sheriffs and stuff back then, boy, it was a lawless town back then, boy. You get clapped, and nobody think nothing of it. You hear me? Yeah. Yeah, be another stain on a pizza. Mwah. No bad.
There have been plenty of times when I've wanted to clap back at a mean comment on my videos, but so far I've managed to ignore BMA's Hater99 and think about what I put out on YouTube. But unfortunately, not everyone can restrain themselves on this website. And in 2012, a 19-year-old called Hannah Sabata successfully stole a car and over $6,000 from a bank in Nebraska before posting about it on YouTube. In a video entitled Chick Bank Robber, Hannah vividly described how she took the car and robbed the bank with a gun before showcasing the stolen money on camera. She also said she was going on a shopping spree the next day, but she never got to hit the mall, because the cops saw the video, drove to her house, and arrested her the very next morning. Talk about a lack of response. Sabata was ultimately sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison.
What I tell y'all, the easiest check. The police is just getting an easy check. I was about to say chat like I'm live streaming something. Yo, in the comments, bro. The investigators don't even have to investigate anymore. At this point, they just being nosy. Just like the rest of us be. When y'all go, I don't post on no social media, but I dang sure just be scrolling just to see if I find some interesting news today. Oh my golly, George, I think I got it. She did what? Gave him, and he got that from her, and he's dating her too. Ooh. Never. Bro, man. I just don't get it, bro. Like, dang, y'all love them, man. It make their job easier. Why don't y'all do something to help me then, man? Subscribe to the channel. Y'all just into making people's job easier for them. Help me out. You helping them out so much.
For the bank robbery, showing the world exactly what you get for boasting about your crimes online. In fact, the only thing that I approve of from her video was her mention of how much she liked the band Green Day. Although I wonder if her favorite song is American Idiot. Well, I think that's all the stupidity I can take. And personally, I'm glad all those idiots got busted. Which dumb criminal was your favorite?
I'm glad all them idiots got busted. Is wow crazy. You hear me? He's genuinely happy too. He's ecstatic. Yo, man, y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Carter Jones. Let me know in the comments what y'all think about it.